Nthatisi, good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time on ENCA. How are you responding to this shocking report? I mean, as the president was announcing the national state of disaster, in 2 weeks' time, there are companies scoring tenders worth 80 million rands. That's shocking.
Good evening, Clement, and good evening to your viewers. Let me start by clarifying what this report sought to achieve. As we were going into a strong lockdown, the city proactively commissioned an internal audit so that we can hear the potential of money being misused. So what happened is that we commissioned our internal auditors to start doing some work, looking at various quotations and tenders that were being requested by different entities, different departments, from a variety of suppliers. Just to make sure that everything is above board, just to make sure that everything is in compliance. So the report makes 16 recommendations as such. And of the 16, 7 recommendations are really around internal control. What it says we need to quickly develop an emergency procurement compliance plan, which we did in the first week of April. And then it says we need to establish an emergency procurement committee just to oversee the spending. That was done in the first week of April. So the 4 recommendations in the report talk to where the city manager has to implement internal audit standards. That means if there are individuals whose names are implicated in the report, they are given an opportunity to respond. And this report is a draft at this stage. Once those responses have been consolidated and everything done, then a final report will be issued. In cases where people's names will still be a subject of further investigation, that report will be sent to judges to investigate. And the investigation is not only limited to maybe issues of maybe flouting a few rules, but it's also looking at issues where there is a deliberate intention to use public funds in an irregular or fruitless manner.
Okay. So what's happened to the officials that have been implicated now? Have you taken any action against them, or are you waiting for the final report before you can do so?
Let me try and paint the picture and explain it properly, because this audit was commissioned at all cities, entities, all cities departments. And when we talk about entities, we talk about City Power, JPC, Joburg Market, and so forth. So what happened is that after the release of the first draft, some entities, the board thereof, deemed it necessary to remove certain people and institute their own internal investigation. So some people have been removed from their positions, but some people were afforded an opportunity to make their representation. And once the final report comes and does not clear any wrongdoing from what they were involved in, the investigation will make sure that the repercussions are felt.
But given how rife corruption is in Nthatisi, you say that some people have decided to remove those that are implicated in this report while they give them a chance to come and give their side of the story. Why are the other entities not doing the same? Because are you not running the risk here if there's a draft report that finds that there are officials who may have acted unlawfully, illegally in the procurement processes? Are you running the risk of allowing that to actually continue while you still keep them in their jobs?
No, we're not running a risk of allowing that to continue, because what has happened is that in terms of, as per the 7 recommendations that I spoke about, it was already talking about tightening the internal controls, which is in place. For example, we can clearly state now that throughout the COVID period up to date, about 1 billion has been saved in the process. So we're asking people to bear with us and allow us to be able to do a thorough job without finding ourselves where we have hastily taken a decision and then we find that we are taken to the court and the process of law doesn't allow or agree with the process that we've taken.
But can you still not do that, Nthatisi? What I'm trying to understand is what hinders you from continuing with the other processes while these people make their representations and you put them aside and you explain to them that there is this draft report that finds you wanting. As a result, we're asking you to step aside for now. You make your representations. We continue with the investigations. And when the final report comes, you can return to work. That's what I'm asking, because some entities seem to have done that.
You must understand that each individual case is very different. Yes, people that have been identified by the report as having grossly violated the regulations, yes, those people are not in their job. You find that the report also goes into small procurement issues.
What is a small procurement issue?
A company has everything else but not a tax clearance certificate.
That is not a small procurement issue, Nthatisi. A company that wants to do business with government and doesn't have a tax clearance certificate, that is not a small issue.
We understand, but you find that it was not contained in the documentation. But when you ask for it later, you receive that documentation. So what we say is that in some instances, it's cases of certain documents that are omitted, and then they just have to be replaced so that the process is above board. So it's not purely issues of people stealing money, but it's at times people not considering every documentation that is required as per the policy.
All right. Nthatisi Modingoane is the Deputy Director of Communications with the City of Joburg. Thank you so much for your time this evening.